Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Judah Casey. Together we learn about biblical business principles, becoming who you're meant to be, and what being a light in the darkness looks like. You're listening to the Vision Pod. Okay, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Jenna Trudeau, she is mom of two, entrepreneur, health connoisseur. How else would you explain yourself?
Health and hustle mama. Honestly, I'm all about putting the health before the hustle, because what we can do as moms and, even entrepreneurs, we can put the hustle before the health, and then, health happens and we're like, oh my gosh, we should start prioritizing our health. So my brand is a constant reminder to myself as well, just to make sure that you're prioritizing your health. Our health is wealth. So health and hustle mama.
How'd you get into health?
Oh, well, my journey started when I was actually 13 years old. I ate nothing but hot dogs. I probably could crush like 6 hot dogs in a day. I was an emotional eater. I won't lie. I struggled internally with that self-worth and that self-confidence. And I remember my Auntie Kelly, who is someone that's near and dear to my heart. For those that maybe live in the Grand Prairie area, they might know her. Kelly, it was Kelly Head at the time, but Kelly Darling now. And I remember she had took me to Hawaii with her for 2 weeks. So at age 13, very blessed to be able to go and do that. And I remember still, we were driving from Lake Louise to Calgary. We were going to catch a plane ride. And she had said to me in the car, she said, hey, she probably could tell that I was like not the healthiest. Mm-hmm. And so she was just trying to, be a positive influence in my life. And she said, hey, what's your thoughts on when we go to Hawaii for the next 2 weeks? Why don't we follow this? It was back in the day, it was called the Eat Clean Diet by Tosca Renault or Renui or something like that. And I still have that book to this day. And so she said, why don't we follow this Eat Clean and just see what your body does, like how it transforms. Have you ever done anything like this before? And I was like, no, I've never, but I'm definitely open to a challenge. I, grew up playing competitive sports. I'm definitely down for like something to be challenged. And so lo and behold, when we went to Hawaii, we honestly for those 2 weeks started really prioritizing the things that we're putting into our body and working out and moving our body. And honestly, that's where my health and wellness journey began. I just started becoming very passionate about it. I saw the changes that it did in my body at a very young age. And I'll never forget coming home from Hawaii. She gave me the book and I still have it to this day. It's called Eat Clean Diet. And she said, would you like to bring this book home with you? If you choose, she said, maybe you could be a light in your family and friends around you. This kind of makes me a little emotional, but she said, maybe you can be a light and just like influence others around you. Wow. And honestly, that's where it all began. And so I remember coming home from Hawaii, and one of my first guinea pigs that just leaned into health and wellness with me was my mom. And we started going to the gym, waking up, going to the gym at 6 a.m. And I packed my lunch every day for school. And that's kind of where my health and wellness journey began at such a young age.
What was the Eat Clean Diet like?
The Eat Clean Diet at the time, from what I remember, it was honestly increasing your protein, getting more just like whole foods versus a bunch of processed foods, aka hot dogs. So like hot dogs, I can't look at hot dogs the same to this day, if I'm being honest with you. And just like increasing your water and just taking more of like a holistic approach. I know there's a lot of things out there and fads and diets and all that stuff out there where it can feel pretty overwhelming. As a mom and as women and even as men to just be like, well, what's the right thing? And so it's honestly just like a holistic approach of like eating every 2 to 3 hours, increasing your metabolism, getting protein in, staying hydrated. Like we so underestimate how hydration is so important for our body and our mind. And then also just moving your body. So that's kind of, in a nutshell of what that looked like.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of, you see it, different opinions everywhere. One person says eggs are horrible for you, and then one person says they're good. Doesn't make any sense why eggs would be horrible for you, but Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different opinions.
Yes. And honestly, if you're looking for something, you're going to find it out there. If you're like, well, you know, vegan is the way to go, you're going to find stuff to support that. If you're like, carnivore is the way to go, you're going to, you know, like there's so much. And I'm just like, I personally can get a little overwhelmed. You know, I took my holistic nutrition in my early 20s and just like started stepping into that passion, and myself sometimes too. I'm like, it can be overwhelming, just the amount of information that's out there. And so I just prefer to just take more of like a holistic approach and like just listen to your body. Like, you know what feels good to your body and what doesn't. So rather than what everyone else wants and what's good and what's not, like just listen to your body.
Do you have like a routine that you do every day to kind of stay healthy?
100%. Your daily routines will take you straight to your dreams. Yes. So my routine, and I mean, I have given myself grace over the years because I'm a mom of 2 girls. We live on an acreage just outside of Grand Prairie. My kids are in sports. I'm married, wife, like all the hats that we wear as women sometimes can feel like, you know, I can procrastinate in some ways, but my routine is very important to me because I want to honestly put that time into myself so that I can pour from a full cup versus an empty cup. And so for me, what my routine looks like is I will wake up in the morning. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning because honestly, my house is quiet then. And I like to get to the gym between like 5 and 5:15. So I'll wake up at 4:30. My alarm goes off, and here's a tip if you're like, you know, I'm not going to say go and start waking up at 4:30 like tomorrow. Like that takes time. I've been doing this for years, like back when I was in my, you know, when I would go to VO2 Max here in Grand Prairie. I would, you know, before school, go to the gym at 6 a.m., right? So since having kids, it's kind of transitioned, but I will wake up at 4:30, my alarm will go off, and like it's like that, you know, Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get your butt out of bed. It's like, it's not like you set the alarm and then you let it snooze and then you set the alarm and then you let it snooze. Not saying I'm perfect and I've never hit the snooze. I mean, it's happened before. I'm just going to keep it real, but ideally 4:30 is my time. So I'll wake up. I will go to my bathroom. I will brush my teeth. I will also just like, you know, I'm someone who I've struggled with my worth and that confidence. Whereas like sometimes people, you know, on the outside looking in, you're like, wow, she's got it all together. Whereas sometimes on the inside, you're like, maybe I don't.
Right.
And so that's been a journey. So part of my routine is even just that high-fiving myself in the mirror. Like I have to believe in myself. And so do a little high five, and then I will go downstairs. I will drink like a full glass of water. And then I'll have some sort of protein, whether it's an egg bite or a protein pancake or, you know, something that I'm whipping up protein wise. And then I just like have some peace and quiet to myself in the morning. I don't look at my phone. I will maybe do some journaling of just 5 things that I'm grateful for and 5 goals and dreams that I'm working towards. And then I'll go to the gym. I'll leave my house at like 5 a.m. And my girlfriend and I will meet each other, and we wake up and work out from at least 5:15 to 6:15, and then come home, get the kids ready, and start my day. So it's a little bit of a process, but honestly, it's what sets the tone for the day for me, because I get to decide who I want to be that day before the world, you know, pulls a lot of strings on me and tries to pull me in many directions.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's that like, being a mom and trying to handle everything together, especially being a mom of a couple young girls? How to deal with that?
Yeah, it's definitely, sometimes I have to just like give myself grace, as much as I'm someone who can put pressure on myself, and I just like, I've learned that, you know, your kids are so young at such a young age, and what we focus on expands. So not every day is going to feel like, you know, the best. There's definitely some hard and struggle or some hard days, but in all honesty, like when I just am able to prioritize my health, I just feel like I can do more as a mom and not get caught up in so much of the emotions. Like I have 2 little girls, they're emotional. I can be emotional. And so, you know, just if I can suggest anything, it's just having patience and and giving myself and my kids grace through it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're kind of saying that you deal with like self-worth issues. So where do you find your self-worth, and how did that kind of change for you?
Yeah. Well, I know that it's something that I've struggled with like since that age 13. Just being vulnerable and raw, because maybe my story, maybe there's someone that's listening to this that, they might be in that phase of what I was going through at that point, just feeling like there's not a way out. So part of that, going back to my story of, eating hot dogs, 6 hot dogs in a day, like that's emotional eating. So I've had the emotional eating. I've, had a point where I used to eat and make myself get sick, certainly not proud of it. It's called bulimic. Or just like the drinking, or just like having something to cover all of the pain that you're kind of feeling inside. And I've literally tried to fight that battle for so many of my own years, just feeling like I had to have it all together. And a lot of that confidence decrease, comes from things within the past. There was a time where I was asked to do something that wasn't very appropriate. And so I've held a lot of shame over myself from that, and a lot of guilt. And so finally at 31, just reaching this point where I'm like surrendering and learning to let that go, and knowing that it like wasn't my fault, and that, life happens for you and not to you. So I'm starting to like piece all the pictures together. And so part of that worth in so many years of just trying to act like I have it all together, I would say there's 2 things, that's really helped is, for basically self-confidence is like when you say you're going to do something, keeping the promises that you make to yourself. That's how you start to build that belief internally and like build your own personal confidence. But for me, it's also been leaning on my faith. Like I started having a faith. I never really grew up in a faith-based family. Like, I know we did go to church. We didn't really talk a lot about God, like maybe little bits. But I never really realized the relationship that I could have with God. And so, once I started leaning more into my faith and realizing that, I don't have to have it all together, and that I can do some healing, and just being able to lean into that faith, I've been able to grow more of my worth through that. And just being able to keep the promises that I make to myself, not leading into those temptations, and just doing that personal work on myself personally, but also with God's help.
Kind of like know whose you are.
Yes, exactly. There's a song that like made me sob when I started my faith journey, that You Say by Lauren Daigle or something. Oh my gosh. It just like, if I'm ever feeling not worth, like full of worth, I just go listen to that song and I'm like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm cool. Beautifully made. We're all beautiful made as we are. And, we all have gifts to offer. So leaning into that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're actually like very successful entrepreneur. What motivates you, and what do you think sets you apart from the rest?
Well, thank you for saying that. Sometimes, it's hard to hear that from people, but that goes down to that self-worth. And I guess one thing I'll even say with that too is like rebuking those thoughts. Like I've listened to my thoughts, and it's also creating awareness. You're like, okay, like, why am I thinking this, right? It's like the enemy's going to try and pull you down, especially when you're succeeding in life. Like when you want things in life. And I don't think that it is bad to want more out of life. Right. And I
think that's like a God-given
100%, 100%. And like, when you surround yourself with certain people, you just think, gosh, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, I remember at one point being like, you're an eagle, right? And like when we're hanging out with a bunch of chickens, life is literally like a cage that is wide open. Like we can literally go out of that cage, and just start spreading our wing at any time. And so it's like how and who and how we spend our time and who we surround ourselves with makes a huge difference. And so now I'm like, I know I kind of went over here.
Right. What motivates you?
What motivates me? Honestly, since I've had my kids, that's been a huge motivator. And it's more than that. Like I was raised by my parents. My parents are phenomenal. Mike and Shauna Head, they like honestly have given us a really great life that I'm so grateful for. And you know, my dad had his own businesses and he worked away quite a bit, and you know, he was here and there, and you know, when he was home, we did some really great activities, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And you know, she was there for so many things. Like, she was able to give us the life that we wanted. And so honestly, my biggest why, and like your why should make you cry, and now it's kind of getting a little bit emotional, and I'm not holding it back, but my why is just I want to be a mixture of my parents in the fact that I want to be a mom that's providing for our family. But I also want to be a mom that can be able to do all these things with my kids and be a present mom at times, and just give them that life, because in a world that just kind of feels a little unbalanced at times, you know, in today's society, I just know that it's really important that like I'm their mom, and I only have 18 years before they start to go out to the world to do what they can. So to answer realistically your question, getting down to the core, is like I want my kids to honestly, when they get older, be like, wow, my mom was bold, and like she was fierce, and that she could do hard things. And that's what I tell my kids. If they are up against a battle, or my daughter's like, I don't want to do my super deeker, or I can't do this. Anytime I hear my kids say I can't, I say, girls, you know, I understand that you feel like you can't, but I'm like, in this family, we do hard things. And sometimes doing that hard thing can feel scary, but like it is worth it. And so, I mean, it's my kids, but it just goes deeper than that, than just my kids, right? It's just the values and just being able to provide them that life.
Cool. Do you deal with rejection in your industry? And if you do, how do you deal with that?
All the time.
Okay.
I get no's all the time in my industry. I have been putting myself out on social media and Instagram and just in my business for years. I have gotten so many no's. I have a bigger list of no's than I do yeses. And to, you know, navigate those rejections, I've learned that, I mean, you know, they always say no is a new opportunity to ask people again at some point. And, you know, it is, right? It just might not be their time right now. And that is okay. We all have life that's happening. And so all that I can do is like, I focus on building genuine connections and being, you know, in the industry of being a professional, you know, friend maker. I'd rather just be a good friend. And if it's a fit for someone, great. And if it's not a fit for them, absolutely no worries. Like, I know that I have something that makes a difference in, you know, men and women's lives, and especially moms' lives. But if it's not right timing for them, then I'm just going to love on them for where they're at. It's all good. And I'm going to continue to show up whether they're here or not. And just, you know, stay consistent. Like, I will, if I can suggest one thing through the nose for a person that has had, like, I have pages of no's, is just continue to stay consistent, because there are people that need what you have, and if you let that one no get to you, you are doing a disservice to many people that need what you have. And those no's, I think, they 100% make you stronger, because you learn how to build your posture, and you also you have to learn to believe in yourself, because those no's will bring a lot of your belief down in what you're doing. And you know, you're like, gosh, can I do this? Do I even have what it takes? And so that's where, you know, it goes down to the habits and the routines and the consistency that we have. We do have to build that belief in ourselves. And so just pushing through that and staying consistent.
Yeah, in your industry, you manage a team of people. So what are some things that you learned about managing people?
I've learned a lot. I have come from an industry where I've had to pull a lot of people. Pulling meaning I've wanted it more for them than they want it for themselves. And damn, I will be your biggest cheerleader, like 1000%. And so if I've learned anything too, it's like, I can't do anything for an undisciplined person. So I am looking for like women that are hungry, that like they have a burning desire. They want more in life. And they're willing to just like push through those rejections. I've learned though that, motivation is internal with working with people as well. And so they have to build that belief in themselves. Like, it's like raising children at times. You want to grow for people more than they want to grow for themselves. And so, just loving on them for where they're at, but understanding that we can't skip the parts. Like I remember starting, my business when I was 21 years old, 22 years old, right? And I would constantly compare myself to people that had gone before me or whatever. And it's like just repetition is the mother of all skill. So, just continuing to put in those reps. And so that's what I tell a lot of women that I do coach and that I do mentor, is just continuing to put those reps in and to build that belief and to just hang around the fire, and be hungry for wisdom. And so, just when people have that burning desire, they'll do whatever it takes to make it happen.
So usually when people fail, you just see that they just don't want it as much, or?
Well, when people fail, it actually gets to tell you a little bit about their character. Because are they going to let the failure stop them and destroy them, or are they going to take failure and learn the lessons from it? I've failed many times in my life, in my journey. But I'll be honest with you, if I didn't fail, I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I have today. I wouldn't have the wisdom that I have today. And I think failure is a beautiful thing. So, when I am working with people and maybe you do see them struggle a little bit or you do see them fail, you can guide them. Like, you can guide them in the right directions, like finding people. So for myself personally, when I say was struggling or failing, it's like finding people that have what you want, leaning in, being coachable, and like humility, like being humble through your failures. Humility is the access to wisdom. So when we can humble ourselves, meaning our ego just kind of takes a back seat and just goes and sits back there, and we just humble ourselves and we lean into the uncomfortableness, we can learn a lot of wisdom through people who have gone before us. So, even going back to that question of what does that look like when you're helping people? It's they have to be coachable as well and somewhat humble. I've worked with a lot of people that sometimes some of them have egos and they're not coachable. So I have to let them fall on their face. But if they're humble and they're willing to learn, it can get easier from there. And so when it gets hard for people, there's normally 3 things that I've noticed that happens. Is number 1, they'll either quit or they'll give up, which I don't want to happen. But the reality is just, maybe it just isn't a fit for them, and that's totally okay. I'll still love on them for where they're at. It's all good, right? The second one is, they'll either figure it out themselves or they'll ask for help. And I always hope that people will ask for help, because leadership is by permission. So, yeah.
Attention business owners. Are you prepared for the unexpected? Secure the future of your business and protect your loved ones with our tailored life insurance plans. Choose from flexible term insurance for affordable coverage or permanent insurance to build cash value. Our expert team is ready to guide you in finding the perfect fit for your needs. Don't leave the future to chance. Call us today at 780-228-0680 to schedule your personalized consultation. That's 780-228-0680. Insure tomorrow, today.
So, do you think that anybody can do that job? Because I believe that people have different giftings, and I think that you can't put everybody in the same box. So is that something that you kind of see before, while you're talking to them? Because some people will have more of a friendly attitude. Some people are more numbers people. Everybody has different giftings. So do you think when people are failing, do you think everyone can do this industry, or do you think when people are failing, it's just that they have a different set of gifts?
That's a really good question. I've never gotten that question before. I think it could be a mixture of both. Maybe, I think it's important to learn what your gifts are and to lean into that, and, being authentically yourself. In all honesty, it's being authentically yourself, right? Especially in this industry, maybe when I am working with someone, they want to be just like me. That's awesome. Like, I'm glad that I inspire you, but I mostly want you to be authentically yourself. So if you're really good at numbers, you should be talking about the numbers, right? If you're really good at like putting yourself out on social media and you just have no fear sometimes like I do, awesome, right? But I think definitely leaning into those strengths, and I don't know. I don't know if that's, I don't really think that that could be a reason why some people fail. I think we all have gifts and we can all do things a little bit differently. How I do it might not be how someone else does it, but there is evidence and substance and systems that help that create duplication. Then you can just take it and turn it into your own and to be authentically yourself.
Yeah, because from my experience, like people have so many different like perceptions about business and what they want to do to make a living, and it's different for different people. So some it can be like, I'm an entrepreneur, but I would never do a franchise. I'd only work for myself. I start from the ground up. I create my product. Whereas some people are like, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm gonna like I work best under this like structured system that somebody's already created and it's proven to work. 100%. And then some people are like, oh yeah, I work best as an employee,
Yeah, and I mean, it also goes down to like one of the first things that I'll ask people when I start working with them, that I just ask them, like, if you could wave a magic wand, like, what are things that you want in life? Like, what are things that you want? I think it's important to know where you're going. We do have to begin with the end in mind. But I also have seen a lot of people, and maybe this also goes back to that, part of failure is like people are just scared to dream and to believe, but most importantly, to dream. Because, yeah, our goals and stuff can feel very out of sight, but like I said, I don't, it's not a selfish thing to want more, and you have to know where you're going. So it's beginning with the end in mind. And that's going to, vision. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm like, what is the word? Gosh, it's like the vision podcast. Yeah, you have to have a vision of where you're going, and leaders have vision. And so it's important to have that vision of where you're going. So for people that are listening, if they don't have a vision, have a vision. And like, even take it that one step further, is like, have a vision, but then create an environment that allows you to see your vision. So like, I'm big on vision boards. I've literally done a vision board for the last 10 years. Like, for people that are like, those things don't work, I'm like, I have had one for the last 10 years and it's so much fun doing them in December every year and being like, damn, like, you just put your head down sometimes and then you don't even look up, that you're like, oh my God, you look at your vision board, you're like, wow, okay, I'm actually a lot farther than where I thought I was, right? Because sometimes when you are putting a lot of the work in the reps, you're like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm going. But it's like, when you actually take that time to look at it, you're like, okay, no, I'm actually right where I need to be. So like, vision boards are important, or, putting things in your environment, the music that we listen to, the people that we surround ourselves with, just plays a huge role in that, in that internal belief. So vision, yes.
Are you excited for the Make America Healthy Again movement?
Yes, I am. It's, there's a lot on social media and stuff like that. Sometimes I just ignore the noise and just take that holistic approach to it all. But I definitely think it's important to make America healthy again, 1000%. And that starts with our daily routines and what we're doing.
So how, like, I don't really know what the right word to put this is, but like, how far down, like, I guess the rabbit hole would you say you are? Like, would you be like a cold plunger, someone who like does grounding, or like how much do you buy into those things?
How much do I buy into those things? In moderation. I mean, I'm definitely not opposed to trying things. I haven't done the grounding sheets, to be honest with you. My grounding, I know it sounds kind of crazy, but like, I love talking on the phone. So in the summer, my grounding is like, I literally, when I'm working from home, I go to my backyard and I just like take my shoes off and I'm on the phone walking around in my bare feet. Like, that is my grounding. And winter, I'm a wimp when it comes to winter. I'll be honest with you. But cold plunges, 100%.
Okay.
I love the sauna. I love the sauna.
Yeah.
Like, I love the sauna. And I do really enjoy cold plunges for sure. I actually, when I played competitive hockey back in the day, I remember my legs were so sore one day. So sore. And I was like, how am I going to get through this game? And back in the day, it was like someone said, do an ice bath. And I was like, I'm going to do an ice bath. And I did an ice bath. We were in a hotel. I filled up my bath with a bunch of ice. And I went in and I sat in the bath. It was the coldest bath experience in my life. I hated every second of it. But did I ever have the greatest game of my life? And so when they started coming out with this like cold plunge stuff, I was like, going through like the this. Wim Hof. My husband's big into Wim Hof and the breathing and the the cold plunges and stuff. But I definitely, there's definitely something to it, some science behind it. And I mean, I also, Tony Robbins, he starts his day with a cold plunge every day. I'm not that extreme yet. I'm a wimp in winter, I'll be honest with you. But I am all for ice baths for sure. There's definitely been some really great benefits for people that have done ice plunges for sure.
Is there somebody you learned from specifically, would you say?
For ice
for like health, I would like maybe like a
Yeah, I mean, over the years, I've definitely tuned into a couple. Some to name off. Well, I mean, it started with the eat clean diet for sure. And then when I took my holistic nutrition, just honestly, my books from there. Like, I still have my books from when I went to Calgary, CSNN, Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. I still have books from there. I can't think of like one right off the top of my head right now, to be honest with you. But as far as like other information that I do love to follow and podcasts and stuff, I love the Ed Milet and Mel Robbins right now. That's kind of like this week. And obviously the Vision podcast. Like, I mean, I just found this, I just got introduced to this podcast, like, when was it? Like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And I've been listening to some of the podcasts on there. So
let's go. Free plug right there.
Yeah, there you go. Kudos to you.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how did you find Jesus?
How did I find Jesus? So, well, I remember one day, clear as day, my friend Nikki Bissell, we went to their lake lot a couple of years ago. It was like in January or June or July or something like that. I can't remember. Anyways, I'll still remember that day. Her and I were like floating off from everyone else, and I was talking about universe and like spirit and all that stuff, and she's talking about God. And obviously when she would bring up God or Jesus, I would kind of be like, oh gosh, like, oh, it's too intense. I just was like, no, this is too much for me. And so then finally I just kind of started asking her a bunch of questions, and like all the things that she was saying kind of aligned with what I believed. And then, it kind of got me thinking a lot more that day. I'll never forget I said, what kind of music do you listen to? Because we were going to play some music. She's like, I like Christian music. I was like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Like, no word of a lie. She's like, you'd be surprised, Jenna. There's a lot of music on the radio that, spreads the light. And I'm like, I was like, try me. So she shared some songs and I was like, oh, okay. Wow. So then I started, hearing it through the music or through the radio and music more often. And then December of 2021 was kind of like I remember I came home and just was in a really dark space. And honestly, I remember laying in bed that day. I just struggled, like even being a mom and being a wife. And I just came home that day and I just said to my husband, I'm going up to our bedroom. Like, I don't want to talk to anyone until tomorrow morning. Like, just leave me alone. And I was like at 5:00, like in the evening. So that's totally not like me. And I remember laying there and I was just like done. I was done trying to do it all myself and like trying to keep it all together and have everything on my weight and just the weight of everything on my shoulders. And so I remember that night looking up at the sky, laying in bed and being like, okay, God, I was like, if you're real, if this is like something that I need to be leaning into, like, hi, I'm struggling. People say, come to Jesus and like you can be a savior, but like I don't know how you're gonna save me or fix me. Like I'm pretty I'm pretty at my wit's end. Like, good luck with me. I got nothing in me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what's worth living at this point. And so, that was kind of the beginning of it. The next day I called Nikki and I was like, tell me about this God thing. Like, what do I do? And so we did the prayer, and, Jesus, died on the cross for us and removed the sins and all that stuff. And she's like, okay.
Cool.
And I was like, so now what? Like, I need to know, like, tell me what to do. And so got a Bible, and, everything just kind of started from there. So, I'll be honest, it's only been about 3 years since becoming a believer.
That's awesome.
And leaning into my faith, which has been really cool. And every year it just gets deeper and deeper. And yeah, I honestly don't think I can do what I do without God on my side. I literally probably sound like a crazy person because I talk in my vehicle all the time. And it's just so nice knowing that, like, I'm not always in control. I'm definitely a control freak. But there's times where I'm just not in control, and that I just have to ask, and you have not because you ask not. So I gotta start asking and leaning on to that. So it's a little, just a little tidbit of my journey into faith.
Yeah. It's kind of like Ecclesiastes, where like time and chance happen to them all, or luck and chance happen to them all. The race is not always the swift.
Yeah.
So what was that conversation with your husband? What did that look like?
When I started believing in God? Honestly, my husband's been super supportive.
Okay.
Like, I don't know a lot of guys that would probably be as supportive as my husband. Like, from your wife not reading the Bible to, like, she's going to bed reading the Bible. Like, some people would probably be like, what are you doing? Like, have you lost your marbles? But he's actually been super supportive. And, like, I remember, I think it was like that next year, Christmas, he was like, okay, Jenna's going to say grace. And I was like, oh, I am. Okay. And yeah, like, I've never wanted to push my faith or my, just belief in God on him. But he's definitely been open to coming to church with me. He does come. I believe that we're all on our own journey, and I do not want to push that on him. All that I can do is just lead by example and show him just the peace that I've been having within and what it's been doing for my life. And, he started to listen to a lot more podcasts. And so, and I'll be honest with you, there was a time this summer where, we had that conversation of, like, if we're not growing together, we're growing apart. And so, we had that conversation of, like, I would love to continue to grow a life with you. Like, it's not always the easiest when, it's not that my husband's been, like, not open to growth, but growth can be uncomfortable. And so when I've been, really hungry for wisdom and stuff, it can, sometimes probably be, I don't know if just doesn't, not that it doesn't sit well, maybe it's insecurities, I don't know. But I just remember this summer we had a really great conversation of just, like, if we're not growing together, we're growing apart. I'm like, I want to do life with you. And, he started listening to podcasts. And so now that he's listening to some of his podcasts, more and more faith has come up in God and Jesus. And he's like, what the heck? So he's been pretty good and very supportive with it. He's never given me pushback, and he does come to church every once in a while. So I really can't complain about that. Yeah. I love when he comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. It's going to be an awesome episode.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
No problem.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you guys learned something or found it interesting, please share the video with someone, as it helps me out a lot. Thanks.